is a form of accountability and justice for these two women.
Rebecca, does this lay the foundation for similar lawsuits in the future with other poll workers?
I think it does. I mean, there are other lawsuits bubbling up, and obviously, this was, this moved along fairly quickly, and it was, a clear message from the jury. So I think others will be considering similar lawsuits, although, of course, facts differ in each different situation.
Rob, you've been covering so many of these post-2020 election cases. What was it about this case and your reporting that stands out?
Well, this is one of the first civil cases that we've covered here in Washington, D.C. Just, steps from the Capitol where the January 6th Capitol breach occurred. And so this was one of the first times that we've seen a dollar amount for what has affected specific individuals. A lot of the January 6th criminal cases that we see are the United States versus, right? So those are against, that is the nation, the Justice Department, prosecuting somebody on behalf of the people of the United States. Here, this really went into a micro view where two individuals alleged damages because of what the judge found were lies spread about them. And so we really heard the emotional impact that this testimony had on these women. They went to the stand, both of them, and they described a lot of times through tears the effect of these claims and what it had on their lives. They had to move. They didn't get promotions on their job. They got racist, threatening, vulgar messages over the phone, in the mail. And so really, that micro view of the effects of some of these things was really distinct in this case.
And just to take that a step further, Rob, was there a moment on the stand that really stood out to you in terms of the emotional impact and the impact on the jury?
Sure. I think one of the more emotional parts is when Shaye Moss discussed the effect that she said this had on her son. Her son is a teenager, was obviously younger at the time when this happened. And she said that one of her greatest fears is that her son will find either her or her mother hanging in their front yard. And so that is really something that I think struck many of us, and I'm sure the jury as well, seeing how that not just affected them, but their family as well. And then Ruby Freeman herself 2 days ago took the stand and testified. And there she kept saying, I don't have a name anymore. She went by Lady Ruby, and that was the name of her business. And so she really identified with that name. And she said she can no longer use her name anymore and doesn't introduce herself in public anymore and has distanced herself from acquaintances and friends so that they are not affected by it. And so I think that not just how it affected them, but those they cared about and their businesses, their home, was really interesting.
Rob, thank you for taking us inside the courtroom. Rebecca, the final question to you. Rudy Giuliani told reporters that at the very least he's planning an appeal and may even ask for a new trial. What's the legal feasibility of that strategy?
I mean, of course he's going to appeal this. It's possible that an appellate court might reduce the punitive damages, but, I think it's unlikely that he's going to have a new trial or a redo in a situation like this. I think it's interesting that he remains defiant. He has, on the courtroom steps, said that he does not feel responsible for the suffering of these two women, and that he still maintains that the 2020 election was stolen. And that's, taking a card out of the playbook of the former president, who, despite these legal determinations, continue on as if they hadn't.
Rebecca Roiphe, thank you for your legal analysis. And Rob Legary, thanks for taking us inside the courtroom. We'll have a lot more on this case on The Weekender at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now we're going to take a quick break. Eye on America is next. I'm Catherine Herridge in Washington. You're streaming CBS News.
Well, let me start with this.
This really happened.
Have you told the government?
Did any of that make sense?
What's your response?
You want me to just
What's wrong with that argument?
What have you learned?
Do you know why?
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 It's time for 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Since you started La Soup in 2014, do you have any sense as to how much food you've rescued from the landfill?
We've rescued 4.5